Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. So welcome back to our second class on Flutter training, inshallah. So we will start from where we stopped yesterday. Do you see my desktop, the Android Studio and the simulator?
Yeah, clear.
Yes.
Yes.
Okay, great, great. Okay. Have you finished installing the Flutter and Android Studio, all these things in your machine?
Yes.
If you haven't, please do it, because it's better that you install everything and then you follow me while I do something. You follow me. It will be great for you to learn the things, inshallah. Okay. So if we quickly review what we have done in the previous class, we have created this project. And when you create a Flutter project, you can select the simple project to be created for you, and then you start modifying things. And it's better to do like this, because some of the code will be common for any project. And we said that the source code is under the lib file, lib folder, and every file has an extension of Dart, D-A-R-T, Dart, because the Dart is the language. This is the language, programming language in Flutter. Flutter is a framework. Flutter is the framework. Flutter is not the name of the language. Flutter is the system that converts the Dart code into like iOS code or Windows code or Android or Linux or Mac or web. So Flutter is the framework, but the language that we are using is called Dart. And in the last class, we recommended that you should take a look at the Dart language. It's very much similar to Java. So if you know Java or C, C++, most of the things will be similar like Java or C++. Like the concept of class, concept of like extending class, implementing abstract methods, so on. All of them are very much similar like Java and C++. Okay. And in the previous class, we tried to explain the different parts or different components of this small program. And this is a running app. You can convert it into APK and you can share this simple app. You can actually publish it, although it doesn't do much, but it's a complete application. But to upload it into Play Store or App Store, you need to do some additional things, which we can guide you later on towards the end of the course. So today what we will do is we will try to modify this program a little bit more, and through modifying the program we will try to learn some more about Dart and Flutter and how to use the widgets. We said that everything you see in the screen, everything like the number 30, the text, the app bar, this floating action button, everything is called widget. Complex widget can contain smaller widgets. So a widget can contain another widget, like row, column. They are widgets, but you don't see them. They are like widget to contain other widgets. Some other widgets like container, uh, you can make it visible also. We will see, inshallah, some of those widgets we will see. Okay. Now this is where we left in the previous class. There was a button here. So if you press it, it increases. Okay. So the first modification that we want to do is we want to add another button that will decrease the value. We want to add another button. There is one button here. We want to add two buttons, and one will increase the value, the other one will decrease the value. So how can we do it? Any idea from what you have seen from the previous class? How can we do it?
Maybe we can make another floating action button.
Okay, great. And then?
And then the method can be decrement counter.
Okay.
On plus.
Okay, great. That can be one option. Yes, very good. So let's try. So we saw that this floating action button was given here in this parameter, floating action button parameter. And the great thing is always try to see what it takes. Like if you bring your cursor over the name, it will show what is the type of this parameter. What is the type of this parameter? So as you can see, the type is a widget. When the type is widget, that means we can give it anytime, any kinds of widget. The whole application can be given here. Okay, which is a great news. So okay, so that means there are one floating action button. We want to make two. So how can we make here two? How can we, instead of one, how can we give him two buttons? Because this is one parameter. So how can we give him two? Any idea? Let me see if you are writing anything. No idea? How can we make it two? Okay. In the previous parameter called body, we used a widget called column. Column is a widget that actually you don't see, but it contains other widget to arrange things. There is row, there is column. There is also something called grid. You can arrange in a two-dimensional grid also. So here, let's try to use, let's say we copy it, or we cut it. Okay. So we say that we will give him a column. Okay, column, and the column can contain a number of widgets. So how can you give him the widgets? If you bring the cursor over the column, it shows there is something called children. The children will contain the list of widgets that will be inside that column. So we bring the children here and we copy the first one. So if you refresh it, as you can see, there is no change in the interface. There is no change in the interface. Why there is no change? Because the column contains only one object. So actually, in this case, there is no need to use column, because normally we use column when there are more than one widgets. Okay, let's copy the same thing again and let's see what happens. Oh, we don't see anything. Okay, let's try to change the icon. So arrow down. Arrow circle down. Oh, sorry. We are actually doing in let's stop it. We are doing it in Android emulator. Let me run it on. Okay. Okay. So you can see here. So we added. Okay. Let's go back. Let's remove it. And refresh it. You can see here. Let's edit here. Second one. Okay. Second one. And so it went up. As you can see here, it went up. It went up. So how can we bring it down? How can we bring it down? Okay. So there is something called align. So we'll take it up, take it out. Okay. And we'll say align child. Okay. And we say alignment is alignment up. No, it's not moving out. Okay. So it's not taking. The floating action button is not taking. It's not taking a column. So is there any other way we can do it? Let's try a different way because this didn't work. So let's try to add two buttons below this column. Okay. So we have the column. We have the column. We have a text here and we have the text for counter here. So let's try to add a button. So there are many ways to add buttons. There are many ways to add buttons. So there is icon button, there is outline button, there is raise button. So for us, suppose let's say we say outline button, and on press we will do nothing for now, and we will give him a text called count up. Okay, now we get a button here. Are you following me? Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay. Yes.
But I had a question.
Yes.
Is there coordinates?
Coordinates?
Yes.
That's a very tricky question and a very low level question. The thing is, there you can actually access coordinates, but it's better. You will need it in very specific applications. like for example when you need to control at a very fine level. Otherwise it's better not to access coordinates, because the Flutter is designed for different screen sizes. So if you fix coordinates, what will happen that your UI may show very good in one screen, but it may not show good in another screen because of size difference. But yes, we can access at the coordinate level, and suppose we want to align it from the left, from the top at a certain position, yes, we can. But
Okay.
normally in most of the applications you will not need it. But for example, in our application, like I said, we developed 2 Quran applications, and in those applications you can touch the images and select words, and there we need to actually follow through the coordinates, because we need to draw like boxes around the words, Quranic words. So we actually use coordinates and scale it according to the screen size, and then draw at that coordinates. Maybe in some of the in future class, maybe I can show it. Okay. And okay, so we created one account up, and if you click it, it will do nothing. See here, if you click it, it will do nothing, because what? Because in on pressed parameter, which takes a function, what we did, we made it empty. So if you want to make sure that the Flutter is really calling that function, make a print. Make a print. There is a print command like C or C++ print. In C we have printf, but here print is enough. So we are going to count up. Okay, so if you press this, you can see here, it shows in the terminal. The message comes in the terminal. Okay. Now let's make another button. Now we have 2 buttons. Count down, and we say count down. Okay, so we have now count down, count up, count down, count up, count down. Okay, great. We have 2 buttons. Now what to do next? Can you suggest what should we do now?
Maybe we could make the method for the decrement like the one with the underscore increment counter.
Yes. So what we need to do is, when you press count up, we need to increase the counter, right? So what we can do is, there is already a callback for increment counter, right? We already did it. So we can just call it. We can just call it. We can just call it, and now look at that. It's incrementing. Okay, it's incrementing. Great. What should we do for decrement? Decrement is doing nothing, but let's say we make another method called decrement counter. Decrement counter. By the way, if a variable starts with underscore, or if a function name starts with an underscore, what does it mean? Do you know it?
I think it means that it's private for this file. Like you can't access it from other file.
Yes, right. It's a private. It's private to this class. So if a variable or a function is only accessed from a particular class, it is better to put underscore at the beginning. Underscore means these functions and this parameter or the counter, the variable is private to this class only. Okay, so decrement counter we will decrement, and then we use set state to refresh the UI. Oh, we need to call it. We need to call it from here. We need to finish with semicolon. Okay, now we have a count up, we have a count down. Great. Do you understand it? Any question from what we have done so far?
Yes, clear.
What about others?
Clear.
Clear.
Clear? Okay.
Yeah.
Are you also doing in your machine, or you are just watching?
We just watch it.
Okay.
Watching and downloading the Flutter.
Okay. So it's better to practice also in your machine, because programming is something that once you practice, you learn the most. Otherwise, it will not benefit you much, because you have planned to develop applications. So definitely you have to practice, and it takes some time at the beginning to come at a level where you can develop useful applications. So at the beginning it might look difficult, but Flutter is actually very easy once you learn it. Okay, let's go
I
back.
have something to say.
Yes, please go ahead.
As you said, it's difficult, but to me, it's not a difficulty. It's I'm not used to programming. Yeah, so I started this course just to learn, have an idea. If I keep asking questions, it will require more details and more time. Won't be enough. So that's
Okay.
why I can't ask many questions.
So you this is your first programming course?
No, it's not first, but I didn't study like a course for one programming. I just have an idea about what is programming and tried some.
Yes, actually, to be honest, for many software development tasks, you don't need a computer science background or like a pre-experience in programming. You can learn it yourself. There are many freelancers who learn themselves and they work. However, to develop something useful and something unique, sometimes you need more mathematics than programming. This is from my experience. I have seen that to develop, like, for example, consider the products from Google or Amazon. Why other companies cannot go close to those big companies? Because they are not just software companies, they are research based software companies. So for example, the voice recognition like Siri or Alexa or Google Assistant, which detects voice. So this is all mathematics, all computer science. Once you have the technique developed, then you can implement into a software, and which is sometimes easy thing. But the main thing is the research, and for that actually you need mathematics, algorithms, and other things. So this is my experience or my suggestions. But to develop something which is already there, okay, anyone can do it. It's not very difficult. Anyway, so let's go back to what we were doing. Okay, so now we have count up and count down. Now we want to make something that will clear. We want to make a button that will clear the counter. That will clear the counter. So how can we do it? You understand? Like we want to create a button. We want to create a button. If you click it, it will make it 0. Make it start from 0.
Return to 0.
Yes. So how can we do it? So let's make another button. Okay, now we have 3. Reset. We are going to reset the counter. Okay. Now, a decrement counter will not work. So let's make another function called reset counter. What should we do it here? What should we do here? We should make the counter to 0 and call that reset counter from here. So if you click it, it becomes 0. So you count up, you count down, and you reset. Count up, count down. See here, it goes to negative also automatically. Count up, count down, reset. Okay, great. Now we want to avoid clicking by mistake on reset. So it's like single tap, but can we make it, for example, long press? Like this is short press, right? It becomes 0. Count down, press 0. So, but we want to make the reset button such that if you just click it, it will not do anything. You have to long press on the button, and then it will clean it up. So how can we do it? How can we do it?
Message.
By the time.
By the time.
Yeah.
Okay.
Delay.
That's a good idea. We can add a delay. Actually, there is a way to add a delay. Actually. But let's see what our outline button provides. So if you bring the mouse over outline button, so let's see the parameters. We used something called on pressed, but there is also on long press, on hover, on focus change, and some others. Okay, so we have on long press. So on press must be given, but there is also another function, another parameter, which is on long press. That's great. So let's try to, so what we will want to do is, we have on pressed, but here we will do nothing. We will do nothing. So now if you try to reset, it does not do anything. Okay.
How long?
Sorry?
How is long? 1 second, 2 seconds.
Oh, okay. It depends on the actually it depends on the material specification. Material specification, like how much time. So it's normally around 1 second. You can say it's around 1 second. It will be automatically managed by Flutter. So on long press. Okay, great. We have on long press, and let's make so this construction means this two brackets means if this function is taking any input. So we make an empty bracket means this function will not take any inputs, but there are some callbacks where there will be a function input like this, int a, like this. But here there is it will give an error, like it will say that it's a void function. So why you are asking for int? That's why we made an empty bracket. We made an empty bracket. Now, what we do here? Here we say reset counter. Okay. Now, if you press it, it doesn't do anything. If you press it, short press doesn't do anything. But if you press long, it becomes 0. Count up, reset, doesn't do anything. But if you do long, it becomes 0. Are you following me?
Yes.
Yes.
Any question? Any question from what we are doing?
Clear.
Okay. Clear. Very good. Now, we have seen how to use buttons and how to use column and how to reset long press. Okay, so before we move to other topics, let's show you some other things about layout, because layout is very important in Flutter, and you need to understand that to arrange things on the screen, you need to visualize that in your brain. You need to visualize them in your brain. For example, this count up, count down, reset, they came as a column, but it doesn't look good. It doesn't look good. So it's better to put them in a row, right? Count up, then count down, then reset. It might look nicer. It might look nicer. So how can we do it? So in the column we had a text. We had a text, and then another text for the counter, and three buttons. So this is our column. So we can remove them to see it better. So we have 5 widgets arranged in a column. Okay. So we want to make these 3 buttons in a row. These 2 will be in column, but these 3 buttons should be in a row. So how can we do it? How can we do it? So to do it, the good thing is there is something called row. Like there is a column, we have something called row in Flutter. So inside the column, we insert a row, and that row can take children like column, and we give him these 3 buttons, and then refresh, and we get it. Okay. So now we have the 3 buttons in a row. Do you understand?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay. Now these 3 buttons, they are connected together, right? they don't look nice, like they are left aligned and their edges are connected, so it doesn't look much good. It is better to space them around, right? So that they take the whole horizontal space and there are spaces between the two. So how can we do it? Okay, for row there are several parameters which you can use. So bring the cursor over the row and you can see there are several parameters. We gave him only the children, but there is something called alignments, axis size, direction. Okay, so these are useful when you align objects, widgets on the screen. Like the designer gave you the design, like he will design the screen using Adobe XD, or there are many other prototype software they can use. Then you want to convert that into a code, so you need to align based on the design. Okay, so how can we do it? So you need to understand the parameters. What does it mean? Main axis alignment. Main axis means for row, this is the axis, horizontal. The main axis for column also has main axis. For column, main axis is the vertical one, because column goes from top to down. Row goes from horizontally, left to right or right to left, whatever you think. If you actually it depends on the language. Actually depends on the local. So if you are using Arabic, count up will come here, then count down, then reset. The Flutter will automatically draw the objects right to left if your language is set to Arabic or Urdu, which are right to left. But for English or like any languages which are left to right, you will plot it or you will draw it left to right. Okay, so how can we space them around? To space them around, let's try to use main axis alignment. So what kind of value it takes? Bring the cursor over. It takes the value of type main axis alignment, and default value is main axis alignment dot start. So this is actually system level class which already has some predefined values, constants. So main axis alignment dot start is the default. So if you give start, it will not change anything. But let's see what else it has. If you say center, it will bring everything in the center, as you can see. If you give end, it will bring from it will put it to the right. But there is something called space evenly, space around, space between. These are the ones that will bring spaces between or around the widgets in a row. So if you say space evenly, then it will bring it like this. Now it looks much better. Do you get the point?
Yes.
Yes, clear.
Okay.
Yes.
Okay, great. Now, when you will do like these kind of rows and columns, one of the common mistake or one of the common issues, because now look, this screen is emulated for iPhone 13 Pro Max. So if you run the program on the real iPhone 13 Pro Max, it will look exactly like this, But suppose you run it in a different like screen size, it will not look same. So for example, if this screen width is reduced, these buttons will come closer. And if you have too many buttons, then what will happen? Let's try. Suppose we copy these same 3 buttons below again and write street. Oh, see here. Do you see this? This picture here.
Yeah, yes.
Yeah, and there is a message here also. There is a message in the terminal, as you can see. So what is the problem here? Let's try to read it. Okay, so in the red you can see here a render flex of overflowed by 136 pixels on the right. It means that you try to draw
out of range.
Yeah, and there is not enough space to draw it. And this is a very common issue when you lay out the objects on the screen and you are using columns and rows, you might get these issues. Okay, so how can we solve it? It might happen.
Sorry, if let's say I emulate on an iPad or a tablet, will this problem occur or?
No. It will not occur. It will not occur. For example, let's try make it like this. See here, it's gone.
Right.
So as a mobile developer, you need to think about all screen sizes. Your code should be such that there is no overflow for any screen size. Do you get the point?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay, so the question is, how can we do it? How can we do it?
I think some function for flexible light.
Yeah, good. So you know something about Flutter, huh?
No, I don't know.
Okay, yeah, flexible. Okay, great. Okay, one actually you can solve it in a different ways. In different ways, you can solve it. For example, we can make 2 rows, right? We can make 2 rows. Like in one row 3, the other row will have 3. We can do this way. One of the very easy solution is replace the row with something called wrap. Wrap will not take this parameter, so let's hide it. So wrap is something, it's kind of row, but if there is not enough space, Flutter will automatically put in the second row. Like in Microsoft Office, there is an option called wrap text, right? In Excel, have you used it? Wrapping means like when you reach the end of the border, the system will automatically bring it at the beginning. Okay, so if you run it, you can see the Flutter brought it down. Okay, and based on the screen space, so if we go to landscape mode, see here, there was enough space horizontally, so he didn't go to the next line. He didn't go. But
that makes me ask a question. What does row you be useful for example?
Oh, okay. Actually, row is a very useful. Is a very useful. Actually, without rows and columns, it's very hard to draw screens. Very hard. Row. Okay. Okay. We'll solve the problem of the row. Okay. So let's go back to the row and run it. So we have this problem of overflow. So how can we solve it? Okay, to solve it, what we can do is, actually, it's what is one of the recommended thing is, as one of you have said, use a widget which is flexible. And there is a widget called flexible. The flexible means it will resize the widget based on the space. Based on the space. Okay. So if the space is more, it will go to more bigger size. If the space is small, it will try to fit in a small space. So it's called, there are several like this. One of them is called expanded widget, and another is something called flexible. So one of the common is called expanded widget, expanded. So in expanded, we need to mention flex. Input means the relative size of the element. Okay, suppose we say 1. I will explain how relative is calculated. And there is a child, and let's copy it 5 times. Let's copy it 5 times. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Okay, so we will bring it here. 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 And then last one. Okay, so let's try to run it. And you can see the difference.
Yeah, yes.
So what we are trying to do is, we are saying, by using expanded widget, we are saying that try to expand this outline button according to the condition of flex. So how Flutter will calculate the width of this each button, how he will do it based on these numbers. So what he will do is, he will add these flex values. So we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So he will add the values. So after adding, we get 6. Now he will give the first outline button 1/6. The second one will also get 1/6. Third one will also get 1/6. Fourth one also get 1/6. 1/6 of what? 1/6 of the screen width. So if you increase the screen width, it will increase accordingly. See here, now it is expanded. The whole screen is taken. Have you seen it? Previously,
Yes.
Previously it was starting from here to here, here to here. But when you say expanded, you are telling Flutter to expand it as much as possible. But how much is the maximum? The maximum is based on the flex values. So for example, let's keep it here. So for example, if, oh no, to show you, let's go back to landscape to portrait, landscape to portrait. Okay. Okay. So for example, if you make it 5, what will happen? What do you think? What will happen?
The button would take a larger size compared to the other buttons.
Very good, very good. Now how Flutter will calculate? he will first add the flex values. So flex values is 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Now we have a total of 10. Now out of that 10, now he will divide the screen width into 10 slots. 10 slots. Out of these 10 slots, he will give the first one 5 slots. So 5 over 10. So half of the screen will go to first button. See here? Half of the screen went to the count up, and the rest half is divided between the other widgets.
If you could rotate that, I want to see it in the rotated mode.
Okay, so you want to see in a rotated mode. Okay, yeah, see here.
Okay.
See here, the first button takes the half of the screen, and the rest takes 1 over 10, 1 over 10, 1 over 10, 1 over 10, 1 over 10. It's very important to understand these concepts. Otherwise, you will not be able to lay out properly on the screen. Even if the designer gives you the layout,
Yes,
you will not be able to reproduce on the screen. So you need to understand these parameters. These are very fundamental concepts in Flutter. Or
so,
yes.
Okay, so where is the number 10 comes from?
Where the number 10 comes from? In the flex values. So can you see these flex values? 5, 1, 1, 1, 1, 1.
Oh, okay.
So inside the row, this is a row. These 6 buttons, they are inside a row. Now, these 6 buttons, how much space they will take? If you don't say anything, if you just put the buttons as it is, like what we did at the beginning, then Flutter will try to draw them according to their actual size. The minimum size a button takes according to the material app specification. Okay, there is some minimum size requirements for these buttons, and if there is not enough space, it will show you like there is overflow. It will not actually draw the whole thing. In the real application, if something is missing, it will be hidden. It will not be able to draw it.
Yes, you just like what happened in the beginning when you it showed that it cannot show on the
Yes.
screen, but
yes,
it also said that it's missing because 136 pixels.
Yes.
So is pixels a variable we deal with as programmers, or what does pixels?
Yeah, actually, the pixel is the resolution. You know, like for example, you have a phone. It has a resolution like 1000 something multiply 700 something. Like every
Yes.
phone or every screen has a resolution. So what Flutter will do when you run the program, during the runtime, it will calculate how many pixels you have from this left to right. Do you understand?
Okay.
It's called the screen width, and you can access it. Actually, you can access it. For example, let us plot. Let us.
So if I were to program an app for multiple devices,
yes.
What would be the optimal device to emulate in my
there is no optimum. There is no optimum. You need to test as many as possible. But logically, you should think that will my design overflow or no? So, for example, if you have like 3 buttons in the row, in most screen it will not overflow. But if you have 5, 6 buttons, okay, then you need to think that it might not fit in many screens.
Okay.
So there is no like guarantee. Actually, that's why it's easy to develop for Apple. because like iPhone is coming from single company. So you can test on all emulators. All emulators are available in Xcode, all of them.
At the same time, it's expensive.
It's, you pay to get more features.
Exactly.
But developing for Android to make sure it looks good in different types of screens, it's difficult, because there are so many companies and so many types of machines. So what we do is we try to test on different phones and try to analyze algorithmically, logically, that will it make any problem or no. Okay, so there is no like 0-1 rule that you can use. Okay, so now if we remove the additional 3, look, it takes more than half. Why it takes more than half now? Can you explain?
Because it's now less than 10, so it took more space as there is less buttons.
Exactly. So if you add 5 plus 1 plus 1, we have 7. Out of 7 slots, the first button is taking 5 slots. So now it's like much more than previous. But if you make it 1, then all of them will be of the same size. All of them will be same size. Okay. There are other parameters in the row. For example, main axis size. If you say
Excuse me?
sorry.
Excuse me? What is the maximum size? Can we add as we like? For example, 10 or 11 or?
No, there is no limit.
Okay.
Let's try. What will happen is if you give too big, like 100, you cannot see the 2 others. See here, the other 2 buttons, it's almost invisible. So because the first button is so big compared to the 2 others. So normally what we do is we try to follow the layout. So how much will go to the left, how much go to the right, how much go to the middle, and so on. So, but otherwise, let's keep it of the same size. But in that case, look, it takes the whole space. That's the problem. That's the problem. So in that case, there is something called flexible. So if you see, if you replace expanded with flexible, it will keep the size to the maximum needed, not the whole space. Do you understand the difference between expanded and flexible?
Yes.
Yes.
Expanded will try to expand, try to take the whole space available whole space. Flexible also will try to take the whole space, but if it does not need, he will not use it. That's why it's called flexible. But you need to tell him how much space you want to give him. Like flex variable is same for both, but the behavior is different.
Is this coordinated with the UI designer, or is it free of my own choice when dealing with?
This is a good question. So what we do is we don't like control the UI designer. We don't control. We ask him. Okay, there are two ways. One way is you first implement the UI from your idea. You have the function and you design it and you implement it, and then you send it to the designer and you tell that, okay, I am doing this thing, but now redesign it. So he will keep the same functions and he will redesign it. Like, for example, the colors, the fonts, the size of the the text, the button. So he can suggest a design and then you can modify. Or from the beginning, he can design something, give you the design, and then you can implement. So it depends on how you work with the designer. So we use both. Sometimes, for example, I have implemented a feature, and then we send the APK or the file to the designer. He saw it, and he modified something. He said, no, make this color, make this combination, make this box here, make it rounded, make this shadow. Okay, so we do it. Is it clear?
Yes.
Okay, rows and columns. So we have learned, mashallah, good amount of things. Now we will take a break after a few minutes, but before that, let's try to learn about another very common layout widget called container. For example, these three buttons, we want to put it inside a box. We want to put it inside a box. So how can we do it? How can we do it? So there are several ways you can do. There is something called card. There is also called container. There is also called sized box. Several, depending upon the purpose. So the most common and a very, very useful widget is called container. So we want to put these three buttons. Now they look good. There is no chance of overflow. So we are happy with the size, but we want to bring or put all these three buttons inside a container. So how can we do it? Let's put it inside a container and he will get a child. So as you can see, there is no changes. Why there is no changes? Because in this setting, this container is unnecessary because you are not doing anything extra for the container. So he said that it is an unnecessary container. But if you give him some parameters, like it has alignment, padding. Okay, good. I will talk about padding actually. Then the color, decoration, width, height. These are very important. All of them you need to know. Alignment, padding, color, decoration, width, height, constraint, margin. Child is this what it will contain, because container is a widget that contains other widgets. So for example, if you say colors dot red. Oh, now you see there is a, now see the comments is gone. He's not saying it is unnecessary. So there is a container of red color which contains a row of three buttons. Now the color is doesn't look good, right? So let's add some opacity, like transparent. So it's easy to do it. We say color is red, colors.red, but with opacity of 0.5. Okay, so now it comes like this, but it doesn't match good with the button color, right? So let's see how much is the color. It was greenish, so we say it's gray. It's better. Increase the opacity or decrease the opacity lower. Okay, so now it more visible. Even lower you can do. Okay. Okay. Now a container normally takes the whole space, whole width, and minimum height, minimum required height. Sometimes it can take the whole height, depends, but here it is taking the minimum height. So if you want to add some margin around the container, because it goes to the end of the screen, right, as you can see. Okay, let's make it red to see it clearly. So you see here, it goes to the end of the screen. So we want to make it go a little inside, because in UI design you will see things are having boundary, like it has some margin. It looks better with margin. So how can you do it? There is something called margin and padding. So we will, let's see the difference between margin and padding. So if you say margin, margin takes what? It takes a very important kind of values called edge insets geometry. This class is about the padding, how much padding will come around left, right, top, or all same like this. So it takes, the margin takes edge insets dot say only. Edge insets is a class. You are calling his function only. Only means you can specify only left or right or top or bottom. Default is all 0. So we want to make left, suppose 10 pixels on the left and 10 pixels on the right. Now see the difference. So it brought some margins. See, if you don't put margins, it looks like this. But if you put margin, it looks like this. Do you see the difference?
Yes.
Okay. There is another thing called padding. So let's just show the value and then we'll take the break, because our salat is now. So if you see this, look, there is a difference inside, not here. So we'll take a break now, and after the break, inshallah, we will continue and complete today's session.